The people of Nigeria are paying a deadly price for importing Europe's dirty fuel. The government of this most populous country in Africa has failed to stop the importation of these toxin-heavy fuel manufactured in Europe. Tens of thousands of Nigerians die every year due to pollution, and now the masses are saying enough is enough.
No to dirty, no to dirty, no to dirty, no to dirty, say no to dirty, say no to dirty.
Hello, I'm Mubarak Kenya, and a warm welcome to this week's edition of Africa Today. We are going to focus on how Nigeria is importing dirty fuel from Europe. This fuel is having devastating effects on the health of Nigerians and the country's environment. In the second segment of our program, we're going to talk about the ongoing conflict over Ethiopia's massive hydroelectric dam being built on the Nile River. This project is opposed by Egypt and Sudan. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi recently warned Ethiopia of risk of conflict over its giant dam.
I am telling our brothers in Ethiopia, let's not reach a point where you touch a drop of water from Egypt. Because all options are open.
So join us till the end of our show as our experts analyze these issues. And don't forget to send us your views through our social media handle as you watch our show.
Europe selling dirty oil to Nigeria. The Nigerian government has since 2016 been making repeated promises to end the importation of dirty fuel from Europe. Members of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, convened a two-day workshop in Abuja in June 2016 with the plan to end the use of dirty European fuels in their countries. According to a non-governmental organization known as the Stakeholder Democracy Network, Nigeria is plagued with some of the worst air pollution levels on the planet. In a report, this NGO noted that apart from damaging vehicle engines, the dirty fuel is having a detrimental impact on public health and national air quality. A Nigerian affected by pollution emanating from this dirty fuel speaks out here.
You wake up in the morning to black particles surrounding us and making us unhealthy.
For more on this subject, we have contacted J.C. Martin Manfour, a senior project officer for the Stakeholder Democracy Network, SDN. He was involved in SDN's research on toxic fuel. Thanks a lot for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Now, it's quite surprising to many that Nigeria, an oil-rich country, imports dirty fuel from Europe. What's the reason for this, Manfour?
Yes, it's surprising. Nigeria exports sweet, low sulfur fuel and gets in exchange of imports highly sulfurous fuel. The reason is not far-fetched. The refineries Nigeria have are unable to produce enough fuel for the domestic consumption of Nigerians. So to subsist for this, the government has no option than to import fuel to augment whatever that is produced within the country. That has resulted in this this situation whereby a large bulk of the fuel that is being consumed in Nigeria is either imported from Europe or the ones that are artisanally refined within the country, which the government still term as illegal.
According to some estimates, Nigeria imports approximately 900,000 tons a year of low-quality, toxin-heavy fuel manufactured in Europe. According to some reports, the fuel being refined illegally in the bushes of Niger Delta is of a higher quality than the petrol imported into Nigeria from European countries. Now, why has the Nigerian government failed to fulfill its promise of ending the importation of dirty fuels from Europe?
It now has to do with structural, because Nigeria at the moment has four government-run refineries, but they are poorly maintained. The government has put in a lot of money towards the maintenance of these refineries. But what has happened is that it turns out to be a corruption-laden process where money is pumped into the refineries and they never get to produce anything. So that has hindered the ability of the Nigerian government to be able to stop the importation of dirty fuel. Currently now, the government is relying on a new refinery that's being built by Dangote Refineries, one of the richest men in Nigeria, to produce most of the domestic consumption of fuel in the country.
Thanks for your insight, Mr. Manfur, and stay tuned for more.
The European Union says it has adopted ambitious new targets to curb climate change. However, in a clear case of double standards, low-grade diesel imported from Europe to Nigeria exceeds daily EU pollution limits by up to 204 times. For petrol, the pollution emissions are around 43 times higher than legal EU levels. David Ogolar, the executive director of Africa Network for the Environment and Economic Justice, has been leading a campaign to stop the importation of dirty fuel from Europe to Nigeria.
The Swiss trading companies and other companies that are importing dirty fuel into Nigeria need to know that they do have a corporate social responsibility that is expected from them, that they should help to bring clean fuel to Nigeria.
Now, Nigeria is among many African countries still using dangerous, low-grade, high-sulfur fuels, which have long been banned in Western countries. So why are European countries dumping this dirty fuel in Africa?
I think it's cheaper for the process of refining fuel to remove the huge sulfur. It's more costly when compared to exporting interstate, and markets such as unregulated markets such as Nigeria and the West African sub-region leaves open the opportunity for people to sharp business practices to send this thing to unregulated markets such as that in West Africa. So it's left for Nigerian governments to make sure that they tighten the standards that they have within the country. Then they will now be able to enforce and ensure that only quality fuel that meets their standards can come into the country. Otherwise, businesses who are looking for ways to maximize profit will always find ways to bring this sulfur-laden fuel into the country.
Clearly, it's up to the Nigerian government to stop these unscrupulous European oil companies from dumping their dirty oil in Africa.
Nigeria now has some of the world's most polluted cities, and this is partly due to the use of these dirty fuels from Europe. This dirty fuel is a major contributor to Nigeria's public health crisis, with the latest data suggesting around 114,000 people die due to air pollution-related causes every year. In Lagos, a World Bank study estimates air pollution resulted in 11,200 premature deaths in 2018 alone.
Now, Mr. Manfur, how is this dirty fuel from Europe impacting on the health of the people of Nigeria and the country's environment?
It has huge environmental and health impact. For instance, the city of Port Harcourt, where I live, since 2016, have been suffering from what we term black soot, where particulate matter is in the air and goes into the lungs and nostrils of individuals. So we've witnessed cases of increased respiratory-related diseases, asthma, bronchitis, and all that. And this has a huge impact on the healthcare burden in the states. It costs people a lot more to take care of their health. On the environmental part, we have issues of due to air pollution, we have acid rain, which makes the environment unpalatable for people to live in, affecting, having impacts on the quality of the building materials that we use in building our homes, on farming and the quality of produce that can be produced from the land, which has become infertile from acid rain.
Well, in a move towards self-reliance in fuel production, Nigeria's Minister of State for Petroleum Resources recently said the government has embarked on the modernization of some of the country's refineries.
And you can see the milestone that we achieved last week. The Federal Executive Council has already approved the comprehensive rehabilitation of Port Harcourt refineries, and we are on course to rehabilitate Warri and Kaduna refineries.
Now, Mr. Manfur, do you expect the situation to improve in the near future?
I'll say yes. Two things, and two reasons for that is, first, the ECOWAS sub-region is working with United Nations Environment Program, is trying to push for the adoption of a standard for fuel use within the sub-region. So if this is adopted and member countries begin to enforce them, including my country, Nigeria, then we'll be able to make sure that only quality fuel can be imported into the country if we still need to import fuel. And that way, we'll reduce the amount of sulfur in our fuels that we use in the country. Another thing is what the government is doing now with, although it's a reliance on a private refinery, which has about 600,000 barrels per day capacity, which will be able to provide enough fuel for the domestic Nigerian market. And if that's done, Nigeria does not have any need to import sulfur-laden fuel into it because already the country has very low sulfur content crude oil within the country. So we'll be able to solve that problem in the medium to long term.
While clearly the rehabilitation of Nigerian oil refineries will meet the country's domestic demand for clean fuels and curb its reliance on imports. Now we're going for a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the conflict over Ethiopia's giant dam on the Nile. Stay with us.
Scariest missions of my life today. We are always walking through this door, but today we are cut off from access to our farm, and our guy, our worker, needs food, so we gotta walk through the door to cross to get to our farm. To deliver some groceries. Run for your life. Man. Always random things going on. So this is our Ramadan routine. Take you guys through a day in our life of what it's like Ramadan in the motherland. But first things first, we gotta go feed our amazing staff at the farm.
Deadlock over Ethiopia's dam.
Egypt and Sudan failed to reach an agreement at the last round of talks with Ethiopia over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Now, the talks were held in the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa, early April. This latest round of talks was hosted by Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi, who is also the current chairperson of the African Union. Now, Sudan's Foreign Minister Mariam Sadiq al-Mahdi told reporters that Ethiopia's insistence on unilateral moves represents a violation of international law.
وبالتالي نحن بنتأمل ما زال في حكمة الرئيس تشيسيكيدي يقدر يعني يوقف حد لهذه العمليات الدائرية من المفاوضات اللانهائية الظل يحسن التعامل بها الجانب الإثيوبي في إنه يضع الناس كلهم أمام الأمر الواقع.
Ethiopia issued a statement accusing Egypt and Sudan of pursuing an approach that seeks to undermine the AU-led process and to take the matter out of the African platform. Sudan and Egypt have refused to take part in the Nile Basin Comprehensive Framework Agreement unless Ethiopia recognizes their right to oversee the use of most of the Nile waters, which a British colonial treaty of 1959 accorded to them. This treaty is also contested by other Nile Basin countries. The multi-billion-dollar Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has been a source of tension in the Nile River Basin ever since Ethiopia started its construction in 2011.
Now, for more on the protracted conflict over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, we have contacted Dr. Ashok Swain, a professor of peace and conflict research and UNESCO chair of International Water Cooperation at Uppsala University. Thanks a lot for your time, Dr. Swain.
My pleasure.
Now, what is the current state of dialogue between Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam?
The three countries have been negotiating to find an agreement of how to fill the reservoirs. This is a big dam, very big dam, how to fill the reservoirs and how to coordinate among themselves now for almost more than 1.5 years. And this negotiation has come to a standstill after it failed to get a deal through African Union-led negotiation, which was being chaired by Congo a couple of weeks ago.
Thanks for that insight, Dr. Swain, and we'll be right back.
The filling of the dam's massive reservoir is expected to commence during the upcoming rainy season, which normally begins in June or July. Despite opposition by Sudan and Egypt, Ethiopia's water minister Seleshi Bekele recently said his country will continue to fill a mega dam on the Nile River.
On second year filling, also it's very clear it has nothing to do with anything. As construction progresses, filling takes place. This is our commonly agreed declaration of principle. We don't deviate from that at all.
What are the major points of disagreements between the parties to the conflict?
The disagreement, the immediate disagreement or what is going on that for the last several months is whether the agreement will be a binding one or it will be just a memorandum of understanding. Ethiopia is refusing to make this agreement legally binding because I think the real reason, as I understand, is Ethiopia is fearing that if it gets into a legally binding agreement, it might not be able to develop the water resources in the future.
Internationally, the European Union says it supports the African Union in the quest for a negotiated solution on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. The United States also recently appointed veteran diplomat Jeffrey Feltman as a special envoy for the Horn of Africa. He is expected to join European powers involved in talks with the three countries.
However, Ethiopian Foreign Minister Demeke Mekonnen has expressed his country's categorical rejection of any attempts to force Addis Ababa to accept a colonial agreement with Egypt and Sudan regarding the Renaissance Dam. Mekonnen says exerting unnecessary pressures on Ethiopia by deliberately politicizing and internationalizing the dam dispute will not force his country to accept an agreement dating back to the colonial era. Now, Dr. Swain, do we expect an expanded involvement of international powers in trying to resolve the conflict?
This African Union-led negotiation, and Sudan has been asking for the involvement of US, UN, and EU. And so Egypt is supporting it, but Ethiopia has been opposing it.
Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, a major US ally in the region, warned of the risk of a military conflict over Ethiopia's giant dam on the Blue Nile after talks ended without progress.
I am telling our brothers in Ethiopia, let's not reach a point where you touch a drop of water from Egypt. Because all options are open.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has said his country doesn't have any intention to cause harm to Sudan and Egypt, but he added that Ethiopians don't want to live in darkness. Both sides are clearly sticking to their guns. Are there chances that the disagreements over the dam will lead to a regional military conflict, or diplomacy will prevail?
You know, the threat to any Ethiopian use of water on the upstream have been very regularly being threatened by Egypt before. One of the good things Ethiopia had done before, when it started building this hydropower dam, that it had brought Sudan to its side. But what had happened for the last several months, that's the conflict between Ethiopia and Sudan has pushed Sudan towards the Egyptian side. So Egypt and Sudan coming together, and I think there has been a number of threats have been issued, particularly after the failure of the talk in Kinshasa. So, but the question is whether it will lead to military conflict or not. I do expect that it should not. It hasn't, because the countries have not fought over the water till now. And I think it will be a huge problem, or particularly for the countries to develop the water resources further if they can engage in military conflict. But considering the situation in the region, you can never rule out anything.
There have been reports indicating that the Israeli regime military has installed the Spider-MR air defense system for the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam amid the ongoing dispute. Israeli regime's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Addis Ababa in 2016 and said the Tel Aviv regime will assist Ethiopia in benefiting from its water resources.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam will be Africa's largest hydroelectric power project once fully operational. It will produce 6,000 megawatts of electricity, twice as much as Ethiopia's entire current output. Now, the dam is expected to give the region a major economic boost. Dr. Swain, how will the Grand Renaissance Dam impact on Ethiopia's economy and the region in general?
It's a massive dam, almost $5 billion dam. It's a hydropower dam, as I said before. It will produce huge amount of hydropower, which is Ethiopia is in the urgent need, because Ethiopia is population is growing. Ethiopia's economy has been on the upswing for some years, so it needs the hydropower. But I think it will also produce a lot of hydropower. Even Ethiopia can sell in cheaper way energy to Sudan, and even also Egypt can benefit. We must know that the Grand Renaissance Dam is a hydropower dam, so the water is not going anywhere. So it just need to that these three countries need to develop the trust and to trust each other how to cooperate on that dam.
Dr. Ashok there says that trust is key in solving the conflict between Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan over the Grand Renaissance Dam. Now, here at Africa Today, we shall keep you posted as the conflict evolves. So let us know what you think these three African countries should do to solve this conflict. And that wraps it up for this week's edition of Africa Today. Thanks a lot for watching, and goodbye for now.